Hey guys, and welcome back to Confessions of a Doctorholic. If you're new here, my name is Hafsa. I'm a general surgery resident, and this podcast is where I share stories from behind the scenes, inside the hospital, and sometimes within the hour. And today's episode is about something we don't really talk about openly in medicine because we like to believe that once you get into residency or you're training, you've made it. And the truth is, that's actually when the pressure really starts. So this happened on one of my call shifts, and for context, we were working with an intern, a prelim resident. Now, for anyone that isn't in medicine, a prelim resident is someone who has a 1-year contract or a 1-year position. It's not a guaranteed long-term spot. The benefit of it is that if you succeed, this can be used to transition into other surgical residencies. It can give you some more experience, and sometimes you also match into a general surgery or an internal medicine program. But I'm going to go back and rewind. This spot is not a long-term guaranteed spot. So the stakes are already high, and people who usually undertake this position have an immense amount of stress. They have pressure to perform, to prove themselves, to secure their future. It's not a great position to be in, but high risk, high reward. So just to lay the scene for you guys, most of my shifts, the general surgery shifts, can be absolutely chaotic. So usually, especially over the weekend or on a 24, it could be anything. Sometimes it's like an absolute dumpster fire and you start the shift running around. I do something between 15,000 to 20,000 steps on every single 24-hour shift. Sometimes it's more than that too. You're running, the adrenaline is high, your cortisol is off the roof. So at the start of this particular shift, everything felt normal. It was busy, as all my shifts typically can be, but it was normal. Phones go off, consults are coming in, the usual. And usually the workflow on a shift is that you round with the team. If you're the most junior person on the team, you get numbers in the morning, and then at 6 a.m. we round, and it could be a 20-person list, a 10-person list, a 40-person list. So you're rounding on everyone on the service, you make plans, the senior goes and staffs them, and at the same time, the person holding the pager, which is usually the intern, gets hammer paged. It could be pages from different nurses asking questions about patients on our service or on neighboring services, so you have to forward those across. Sometimes it's the emergency department closing the loop on consults from the night before, or even sending through some new consults. And you as the intern, you have to triage that with the help of the more senior residents. But pretty early on, things started to feel off. So the pager wasn't being answered consistently by this individual. Tasks that should have been done were not getting done. And at first I was like, okay, you know what? It's month 4, different people learn at a different rate. And maybe it is particularly challenging for this individual. Maybe they're just overwhelmed, because I remember what it was like. It is overwhelming holding the pager, and it is so nice not holding the pager anymore. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say there is some PTSD from the sound that goes off when you're holding the pager. But as the shift went on, things became a little bit harder to ignore. We were picking up more and more missed stuff, and the minute you're behind on a shift, and it happens, but if you're too behind, it can be so stressful because you're playing catch up for the entire shift, and it can be super exhausting. The senior was in the operating room. It was just me and the intern, and things started feeling unsafe. So I had to take the page up. This is a part of the process that people don't realize. In residency, especially in surgery, these are not just tasks. These are real patients that we're talking to and dealing with. And if a page is missed, it could be something that's really big and really important. Many times it's not, so you can get provider fatigue as well. But there are some times in between all these messages that they're telling us that a patient is deteriorating, or they had a heart attack, or they called an emergency response team, or there's a code blue, and they need to inform the primary team that's looking after this patient. Sometimes if a critical lab isn't followed up on, if the potassium's really high, sometimes you need to call for a dialysis. So the stakes here are real. Like, this is someone's mum, dad, granddad, grandma, kid. So we need to take every single thing seriously. So I pull this resident aside privately because my goal isn't to embarrass this person. And just in general, you guys remember that episode where I spoke to you guys about my life as an intern. Even when things are a little bit rough or things go a little bit sideways, I want it to be a learning experience at all times. And I genuinely want to help. So I ask, what's going on? How can I help you manage this? How can I make your life easier? And how can I teach you in the process so we can do this along together? And this is where things got a little bit complicated, because I was kind of expecting him to be like, I'm struggling, or I need help, or this is what I'm dealing with, and this is why I'm missing pages. But instead, what this individual said was very defensive. It was more along the lines of, I'm fine, I'm doing everything great, I'm working just like everyone else on the team, I don't think I'm doing any worse. And then he mentioned that he had some mental health struggles and that the anxiety was affecting him more than anyone else in the residency program. So I'll be honest with you, it's real. It happens to everyone. Residency is hard, anxiety is real, burnout is real. And what made this situation difficult was that it didn't feel like there was accountability. It felt more like, this is happening to me, rather than this is something I can work on, and maybe together we can form a way so that we can improve. And as the shift got on, things didn't improve. If anything, they got worse. And in fairness, I think a third-year resident and a second-year resident could do a lot, but when you're being slammed, every single body matters. So we needed our intern. It was also things like, we had a trauma come in and the intern did the laceration repair, and the site of the closure was marked incorrectly. So everything was being checked, and we checked them anyway, but it was a little bit more stressful because every detail mattered. Every single line was being checked. We were trying to make the best out of it and trying to ensure that nothing fell through the cracks. Because at the end of the day, patients come first. I remember feeling super conflicted. Part of me was frustrated. Part of me felt bad. Part of me knew how overwhelming this entire process was. And I was certain that this individual just didn't know how to handle it. After a couple of weeks after this particular shift, I started hearing same concerns from different people. Some people are a little bit more benign, and what I mean by that is some people are a little bit more chill and are more patient when it comes to teaching. Other people were not, but it seemed unanimous that different people had similar concerns about the same individual, same pattern, same issues, and eventually, unfortunately, it got escalated and leadership got involved. And then one day he just wasn't there anymore. There was no announcement, no explanation. This person was just gone. A couple of things hit me. One of it was how fast it happened. There wasn't a goodbye. There wasn't really like a farewell, good luck in your future endeavors. I'm sorry that this didn't work out. And part of me understood that this was safer for patients and for the team in general. And I've thought about this moment so much because it's easy to say this individual should have done better. But in reality, it was probably a lot more complex. This individual was struggling and maybe did not get the right support early on. And then on top of that was put in what we call a PIP, which is essentially like a process to improve performance. And this individual got more and more depressed and got in this circle of, I can never get better, and then ended up being in the ICU or whatever shift, just laying down on the couch in the corner or on a seat in the corner doing nothing. We also have support services, but there was something that fell through the cracks, and this individual may not have gotten all the support that they needed. I think the biggest takeaway for me was this, though. In medicine and life, it's never about being perfect. It's about being teachable, being open to feedback, being willing to say, I'm struggling. This is what I think I'm struggling with. I need help. This is what I'm doing to try to improve this situation, because that could have been any one of us. It's also our role as people that are teaching or more senior residents to be like, hey, like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? It's definitely more than just a two-way street. It's a 3, 4, 5-way street. On a bad rotation, on a bad week, on a bad day, at a wrong time, that situation could have been anyone. And the difference often isn't how much you know, it's how you respond when things aren't going well. So, confession. What scared me the most wasn't that this individual was struggling. It was how quickly things can change with a snap of the fingers. So I want to ask you guys something and be honest with me. If someone told you that you were struggling at work, what would you do? Would you ask for help immediately? Would you reflect and try to improve? Would you feel defensive at first? Would you avoid the conversation altogether? Or is there something else altogether? Alrighty guys, thank you for listening. Until next time.